Hello friends, this video on Kingdom Plantae Part 21 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Monocots. Now let us talk about the reproduction in angiosperms. Now in order to understand the reproduction in angiosperms, we actually need to understand first the reproductive part of the angiosperms. So which is the reproductive organ of angiosperm or a flowering plant? Flower. So in order to understand how exactly reproduction takes place, we should be very clear with the structure of a flower. So what are the different parts of a flower? What are the functions of each part of a flower? Only if we are clear with all those concepts, only then we can understand the process of reproduction. So now we will spend some time in order to understand the structure of a flower and in order to see which part of the flower produces the male gametes, which part produces the female gametes, etc., etc. So let us focus on the structure of a flower. So here we have a rough structure of the flower just to label and show you what are the different parts of the flower. So the first part is the stalk. What is stalk? It is the axis that holds the flower. So this is the stalk because it is a axis which actually helps to hold the flower. It is a tube-like structure. Next is thalamus. So this portion is known as thalamus. It is the swollen upper portion of the stalk. So this is stalk and the upper portion of the stalk is a swollen structure which is thalamus. Petals. Petals are nothing but the colored parts of the flower. So you see here, these are the petals. So these petals can be of any color. It is not necessarily a specific color. Some flowers are red in color, some are pink, some are yellow, some are orange. So this can be of any color. And what is the purpose of petals? To attract insects. Now why do flowers need insects? Why do they need to attract insects? So we will see that insects play a very important role in flowers. So we will see that purpose as well. And there is another purpose that it protects the reproductive organs which are present inside. Now these petals actually surrounds the flower. It acts as a guard because the main reproductive parts are present inside the flower. So it also acts as a protection. Next is sepals. These protect the flower when it is a bud. So here you would have seen that green colored structures are present in a flower. Now when the flower has not yet grown, when it is a bud, you would have seen that it is covered by green colored leaf-like structures, very small thin structures. So they are known as sepals. So when the flower becomes, when the bud becomes a flower, then they are seen as small green colored structure at the base of the flower. So these are green in color and its purpose is to ensure protection to the bud. Next is stamen. So stamen is the male reproductive organ in which we will concentrate now because for the process of reproduction we need to know which are the reproductive organs. So this is the male reproductive organ of the flower which produces the male gametes. And what are the male gametes? Male gametes are the pollen grains. So here in this picture, which is the stamen, this portion is the stamen. So you see a green colored structure with a yellow terminal. So these are the stamens. And the last one, that is carpel, which is the female reproductive organ. So this entire structure is the carpel. So now this is the female reproductive organ and it produces the female gametes, which is egg or ovum. So now even in this carpel, this entire structure, it also has got different parts. Similarly, the structure stamen also has got different parts. So we will talk about the structure of stamen and the structure of carpel separately. So now let us talk about the structure of a stamen. So if you look at the structure of a stamen very closely, this is how it will look like. This is the front view, this is the back view, and this is the cross-sectional view of a stamen. So this part is stamen. Right? Now the stamen has 4 lobes here. Here you can see the 4 lobes. And what are these 4 lobes? These 4 lobes are known as the pollen sacks. So what are pollen sacs? These lobes are nothing but they are the places where the pollen grains are present. So the pollen grains are the male gametes which are present in the pollen sacs. Besides that, you have this tube-like axis which is known as the stalk. This is the stalk of the stamen, and this portion is known as anther. So if you look at this structure, you see there are two lobes, right? Here you can see it like this. These are the two lobes. So these are known as anther. So the stamen basically has two parts, stalk and the anther. So stalk is the tube-like structure and anther is the lobe-like structure which is present above the stalk. Now on the cross section of the anther, you have 4 pollen sacs which contain the pollen grains. So this is the dorsal view, this is the ventral view, and this is the cross-sectional view. So now here you see some pink colored structure. So what is this? This is the connective tissue which connects the two lobes of the anther. So these are the two lobes of the anther. So they are connected by this tissue. So this was about the structure of stamen. Now let us talk about the structure of the female reproductive part, that is the carpel. So this is the magnified image of the carpel. So now carpel again consists of different parts. The lower portion of the carpel, this portion is known as ovary. This stalk-like structure is known as style, and this swollen topmost part is known as stigma. So these three parts together constitute the carpel. Now what is the purpose of each of them? Stigma is the part which receives the pollen grain from the male reproductive part. So purpose of stigma is to receive pollen grain. So the pollen grain, how will the pollen grain reach the egg? The egg is present somewhere here. So the pollen grain will first come here. The stigma is the one which has to receive the pollen grain. Style, what does style do? Style does nothing but it connects stigma to ovary so that the pollen grains can travel through the style and then reach the ovary. And what is ovary? It is the basal swollen part. Inside this ovary is present the ovule. So inside the ovary you see this structure which is known as ovule. So inside ovary, many ovules can be present, and inside each ovule, one female gamete is present. So inside ovary, you can have many ovules, and inside each ovule, you have a female gamete which is known as ovum or egg. So that means the pollen grains has to reach this egg. So it has to reach inside the ovule which is present inside the ovary. So first the pollen grain will reach the stigma, then it will travel through the style, and then it will reach inside the ovule. So this is the male and the female reproductive structure in a plant. Okay. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more videos, attempt free online test, get free study material, find tutors and mentors. Thank you once again.